That means it could be you, your best man, your worst man. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org to know where you stand. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
It's time for Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt. Todd Marquardt, attorney at law in Texas. If you're a millionaire or a thousandaire, Talk Law Radio is now on the air. Call in with your business law question, your elder law question, veteran aid, Medicaid, build a business to get paid. 210-308-8867. Or ask a question online at marquardtlawfirm.com. That's MARQUARDT lawfirm.com. And now it's Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt.
Now it's time to discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, and today our special guests are Daniel Palmer, partner attorney at Marquardt Law Firm, and Bodo Knochenhauer, board member of and president of Crime Stoppers San Antonio. So we're going to be talking about Crime Stoppers. If you have a question about Crime Stoppers, call 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Daniel, you joined the board at Crime Stoppers San Antonio recently, and you suggested that we invite Bodo to the show to talk about Crime Stoppers on the radio. So will you introduce him for us?
Yeah, so I've known Bodo for a little bit now. We've worked together on some stuff. Bodo's in wealth management, and hit it off really well. Crime Stoppers came up, and I thought it was fascinating, and wanted to get involved. And Bodo was kind enough to invite me onto the board, and so to introduce to our listeners, Mr. Bodo Knochenhauer.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So please tell us, how did you get involved? You said that you've been on the board for 28 years. Can you even remember how you got started?
It's pretty crazy. It's been a bit, but yeah, just working in wealth management with my clients. One of my clients was talking to me one day. He's like, "Are you on any boards?" I was like, "No." It's not quite sure I even knew what a board was back then. So just starting out, but I said, "Sure, I'll be on the board," and brought me on board, and I really liked it, enjoyed it. All the cases we were able to solve over the years, and I just stuck around, and it's a great organization. So I'm just happy to help the city, keep the city safe.
Yeah. Do you know the history of when the first Crime Stoppers got started?
I do. Actually, I brought that. Crime Stoppers was started in 1976 in actually Albuquerque, New Mexico. I know you mentioned you're from New Mexico. So
I read about this history, and I'll let you finish talking about it, but it totally made sense that there was so much crime in Albuquerque that they needed something like this, because I did live there at one time.
Wow.
I think it was 1984, and we just knew that it wasn't safe. Gangs and crime. My mom just said, be careful. It's not safe. I don't want you to get kidnapped. So tell us the rest of the story.
Well, the rest of the story goes is that there was a local law enforcement officer that was having problems solving crime. And he worked with a, radio station. Actually, it was a TV station, and they started doing reenactments where here's a guy who robbed a gas station or robbed a bank, and they did these reenactments, and they put them on the air. And they said, please call the police department. I think at that point they created their own. I think it had to be a separate entity, and that's where they came up with Crime Stoppers. And it just started working so well that the program went throughout the whole country, and now it's actually internationally. So Crime Stoppers is all over the world.
Is there like a national headquarters? Is it a centralized?
There's a Texas Crime Stoppers Council, and then there's also a National Crime Stoppers Council. But we are accredited through the state through the Office of the Governor. So the Texas Crime Stopper Council.
Oh, okay.
So we work through the governor.
And do they
Mhm.
tell you what to do, or do you?
Well, there is a accreditation program that you have to keep. So it's very strict in in financials, keeping records and all those kinds of things. So I'm very happy that we are accredited with the Office of the Governor.
Okay.
Yep. Every 2 years we do have to have our certification, and we are certified.
Do they tell you how to run the organization, or are you independent in some ways?
Well, there's some guidelines on how to run the organizations, but each organization kind of runs it a little bit differently. How much you can give out. Primarily, you do raise money through the courts, through restitution revenues. But if you don't have that, then obviously, if you're a smaller organization, you have to have some different other ways as far as fundraising goes. So, but yeah, pretty much there is a guideline on how you pay out, how that operates, so that it's all efficient, and that primarily one of our main tenets is that you are anonymous. So any tip, anything that comes through to Crime Stoppers, you are anonymous, and that goes all the way. It's been proven. It's been tested all the way up to the Supreme Court. So tips through Crime Stoppers are anonymous, and that's very important for the public to know.
Daniel, when I was preparing for this show, I ran across an article written for attorneys on how to get information from Crime Stoppers if you're a defense attorney. Did you run into that when you were a defense attorney a lifetime ago?
It didn't come up as much because, well, there's a couple of different reasons, but the main reason is because I was not doing a whole lot of criminal defense where there were issues that involved Crime Stoppers. It's kind of the main reason. But it did come up within circles frequently, especially amongst like defense attorney listservs and stuff like that.
Right. So they wouldn't get any of the people that were giving tips because that's anonymous.
Right.
What kind of information would they be looking for?
So sometimes where I saw it most is maybe looking for information on anyone that could potentially be a witness to a crime that may not have been the anonymous tip, but may have some knowledge of it. From a defense perspective, the only evidence that you are using is most of the time, or at least starting with, is what the state has given you. So you got to do a lot of the homework on your own. And so sometimes that could be incredibly helpful.
Right. And so as part of investigating the case, they would just want to talk to whoever had information.
Yeah.
Witnesses and such.
Exactly. When you're prepping those defense cases, the more information that you have, the better.
Okay. So we're talking about Crime Stoppers today on Talk Law Radio. You can call in if you have a question at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. In the next minute or so, I'd like for you guys to talk about an exciting event that's coming up. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Bodo can definitely elaborate on this a little bit more, but we do have a really important fundraising event coming up on October 8th at Bolero, right off of 281 in Bitters. I believe is it our largest fundraiser of the year? Yeah, and Bodo, if you don't mind, explain that a little bit, what we're doing it for.
Sure. We primarily raise our monies to operate Crime Stoppers through restitution revenues, through court adjusted fines or judge assessments, that kind of thing. And judges are allowed to then assign those to organizations. And that's primarily where we've gotten our functional or operating funds, if you will. Those have actually dramatically decreased over the years, where through different laws or judges coming and going and not maybe thinking about Crime Stoppers or that kind of thing. So it's actually gone down over the years. So in order to remain relevant, I believe, and to keep our different programs that we're doing, we have started some fundraising. And this is our big fundraising of the year. It's from 6 to 8, $400 for a lane or $75 a person. You can actually have 6 people in a lane. So it's very it's a great deal because we also are giving drinks, sodas, and pizza, all you can eat. So it's actually a great deal. Great idea to come out and actually network with different law enforcement, media, and actually some judiciary. Hopefully some judges come too.
And so how do people sign up? How do they buy tickets, or how do they donate?
They can donate through or sign up through sacrimestoppers.com, our website. It's very easy to sign up there. They can also just donate online if they'd also like to do that too. We are coming out with a website, different fundraising website. We should have that up shortly.
Okay, terrific. Well, we're coming to the end of this segment, but before we take a break, I'm just going to say a short prayer. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you for all the gifts and blessings that you give to us. Please forgive us for our sins, for our mistakes, for doing the wrong thing or failing to follow your will. Help us to explain Crime Stoppers in San Antonio today. Help us to do everything we do for the good of your people, for our own good, and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. We'll take a break. Be right back. Stay tuned. Losing a loved one is hard. I'm Todd Marquardt, and I help families like yours navigate probate with clarity and compassion. Don't go through it alone. Call 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or visit marquardtlawfirm.com to get answers and peace of mind. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. In the beginning, God had one law: don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And now we have municipal, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws that might impact you without you knowing it. So we're here to help you discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. And today we're talking about Crime Stoppers with Daniel Palmer, who's a partner at Marquardt Law Firm, and Bodo Knochenhauer, who is a president of Crime Stoppers San Antonio. And we just finished telling you about a fundraising event at Bolero on October 8th from 6 to 8. Pizza, soda, and bowling. And you can go to SA Crime Stoppers if you want to sign up for that. We'd love to see you and bowl with you for that. We talked about the history. We talked about how you got involved in Crime Stoppers. Now I want to know a little bit more detail about the organization. You talked about the funding and the structure of Crime Stoppers. Let's talk about how it works. I mean, most of us, if we don't live under a rock, have seen Call Crime Stoppers on TV, during the news, or we heard it on the radio. And you mentioned that people that do call with a tip, they're anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we need to know about how that all operates? Are you part of the police department, or how do you get information to the police?
That's a great question, Todd. And that's an important distinction I'd like to make right off the start, is that no, we're independent of the police force. We're independent of lawmakers or judiciary. We are run by local citizens here in San Antonio. And how Crime Stoppers works is that if you don't trust the police, that's fine. You can call us. You'll stay anonymous. If you don't want the money, or you want to stay anonymous, or you're afraid of retribution, call us, because you will stay anonymous. And that's really how successful Crime Stopper programs are really throughout the world now, is that people can kind of understand that, is that you will always stay anonymous with us. And there's that's actually gone up through the Supreme Court, and we will not disclose any person who gives us a tip. So
Okay, this is Talk Law Radio. We're talking about Crime Stoppers. You can call and ask a question, 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. My question is, do you ever get junk tips?
we do. We get a lot of junk tips. We have an answering service that answers most of our calls. We're also linked in with, let's say, SAPD. We do have police coordinators that are working directly with us and us with them. And if there is a real hot tip, if you will, that gets directly to the Crime Stopper coordinator with SAPD, who's ever on the case at that point, who's ever working at that time. So yeah, but it's really something that they kind of whittle those down to where if it is that important, they will make sure they get a hold of the officer.
Okay.
So, and when you do call, you'll be given a tip number, a case number, and that's how you can call back in to identify yourself. So you never call in, you never identify your name. You always stay anonymous.
If you want the money, you
If you
have
want
to
the
go
money.
pick
Mhm.
it up, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So does everybody that makes a tip get money?
No, not everybody gets a tip. We pay anywhere from zero up to, or maybe say $300 up to $5,000, and $5,000 is at the top end is really for capital murders. That's where we pay on the top end. If you call the police, you identify yourself, and then you call us and you've actually been identified, then you're not anonymous, and we can't pay that tip. So in order for Crime Stoppers to work in that regard, you do have to call us first.
Okay.
So
I think I have this conception. I don't know if I learned this or if it's an actual fact. Maybe it's a myth that your tip has to lead to a conviction in order for you to get paid. Is that true?
correct. Conviction or indictment.
Okay.
Mhm.
So if it's just a bad tip that doesn't lead to anything, you don't pay for that tip.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is calling on the phone the only way to make a tip?
No, you can actually use your phone, and you could tip online also. So texting or online
On your
on
website?
the website. Mhm.
And so what's the number if somebody has a tip right now?
It's 210-224-STOP. 210-224-STOP.
Okay. I read on the website about the P3 Tips app.
Yes,
So there's an app also.
there's an app also. And that leads us into our Safe School program, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but we started our Safe School program quite some time ago now. And we're in probably majority of local San Antonio school districts. But the Safe School program has led to some really amazing types of interventions throughout San Antonio.
What's it for? What's the program do?
Well, what our program does with using the P3 app, and the kids are able to download that on their phones, they're able to submit tips anonymously through bullying, crimes, drugs, and one of our big issues now is mental health. So if a child is or a student is talking about suicide, that kind of thing, and a tip does come through, we're able to get that through to our local law enforcement, school law enforcement. And we actually have had 3 cases now where we've had an intervention, and I feel maybe even saved lives.
That's
3
awesome.
students' lives. Yeah. Amazing.
And that's what really had spoken to me. When I first got on the board, I wanted to be on the board anyways, but I felt a real connection to it when I saw how much was being done within the school systems. Having a child that just entered middle school, that really spoke to me. And, I feel safer. I feel like my son is safer because of this organization. It's really incredible.
Do you let him have a phone so that he can use the app?
So he has a phone, but it's very limited on what he can use it for. But we actually did teach him how to use it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's great.
There's something else that I read about that Crime Stoppers does for kids and for older people. Some kind of fingerprinting identification kit
Yes.
in case they get lost.
Mhm. We do have those free. We can hand those out to the public. One of our great board members, Dwayne Cruz, he actually implemented that. And it's a great little brochure there where you will, fingerprint your child. You put all the important information that you need to have on your kid, because if something were to happen and your child goes missing, then you think of needing that ID kit.
Right.
Oh, well, I don't have this. I don't have that. And to have that on file or in your house it would really help the police dramatically.
And you can download this brochure on SA Crime Stoppers website. I looked at it, and it's got all the questions that the police would ask you, like how tall is he, or what color hair does she have. You write all that down so that if your child is missing or your granddaddy's missing, you can just hand that over, and then you can put their fingerprints on there, not for the purposes of being registered with the police or the state, but just so you keep it at your house and if or until you need it.
Correct.
So that's kind of neat. My heart is for older people, and so if my granddaddy was lost, I would be very upset about that. And sometimes when I'm driving on the highway, I see the silver alert, and I met with somebody just the other day who was telling me that her husband had to be silver alerted, and the police found him, and he was confused and didn't know how to get home. Well, let's talk about some more about Crime Stoppers. Is Crime Stoppers even effective? One of my friends asked me, I was telling him I was going to do this show, and he says, I don't know if it even works. And so for his benefit, other people probably have the same question. How many criminals do you catch?
I did bring some stats on that specifically because I wanted to know myself too. And I have stats up to the end of last year. We've received over 43,000 tips. We've made over 1,800 arrests. We've cleared over 2,700 cases. And we don't always need to get the credit for the cases. We're just happy that the crimes are being solved. Some tip would lead to something else that we don't get credit for, but SAPD or Bexar County, or I think there's 70 different law enforcement agencies throughout San Antonio, throughout the city that work through us, that use the information. We disperse the tips and get those crimes solved. So we've gotten weapons, and that's a big thing we haven't mentioned yet, but we've actually gotten, I believe, 3 or 4 loaded handguns now out of schools.
Goodness.
And it's not something that you hear about every day, but you hear about the disaster, the Uvalde and the Columbine. You don't hear about some of the success stories, and we have gotten some loaded handguns out of schools before anything happened.
Because the kids use that app?
Because the kids use the app, absolutely.
Wow, that's great. Yep. Because I mean, if they go tell their teacher, then there might be some sort of retribution against them for doing that. But if they can do it anonymously, then the offender doesn't know. Yeah, and that leads us to our drug dogs, our dogs that we've actually been able to donate. Actually, did you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of set it up more for you to go into the details, Bodo. But yes, that was another thing that I had learned about very early on in joining the board. Is it's 2 dogs, correct? That have been trained for different purposes, through a company and that are used by Crime Stoppers, and Crime Stoppers purchased these dogs. One of them is more of a kind of support animal, comfort, yeah, and the other dog, Scotty, right?
Scotty.
Now he's trained to what is he trained to be able to sniff out other than drugs? Is it like
weapons?
Yeah,
weapons. And I actually went on a site visit with Scotty, and he's a stud. There's no other way to put it. He's an amazing animal. Actually, SAPD borrows him at time because he's so successful in what he does, but he can actually detect the different weapons that would be in schools. And he actually did help us get a weapon out of school, which was pretty amazing. And what's amazing to me is that when he is alert and when he is working, The officer that is handling him also has a weapon, but he's not smelling that weapon.
That is
Which
interesting.
how acute, how amazing is his sense that he's not he's singling that one out, and he's just
Right.
going ahead and smelling for the other weapons that may or may not be in the classroom. So yeah, that's really one of our big programs that are success stories, I think, going forward, because the kids now are using these vape pens, and it's really throughout the whole city, and it's really a shame in that they're high or whatever you want to call it with these vape pens, and they're not studying, they're not getting their classes work done, that kind of thing. And Scotty can come in, he can smell those pretty quickly.
Great.
So kids know that, hey, the school is not a place for that kind of activity.
Well, I want you to know this is a hidden legal issue blind spot, because what would happen if we didn't have Crime Stoppers? It'd be harder to solve crimes. And I might be a victim of a crime someday, and I might need you guys to find out information to solve the crime. And so I think we should pay more attention to Crime Stoppers. We have to take a break. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt here with Daniel Palmer. partner attorney at Marquardt Law Firm, and Bodo Knochenhauer, who is the president of Crime Stoppers in San Antonio. This is the third segment, the Sinners and Saints segment. So I developed this segment because each of us at one time or another can be a sinner or a saint. I learned this from Martin Luther, the famous theologian who nailed his 95 Thesis to the church castle door in Wittenberg, Germany, on October 31st, 1517. He said, "The saints are sinners too, but they've been forgiven and absolved." So tell me your experience about Germany.
Well, I spent my junior year abroad in Germany, in Marburg, Germany, which is an hour north of Frankfurt, very central in Hessen. And I studied German and business. And in Marburg on der Lahn, it's the Lahn River, is a castle that overlooks the city. It's very similar to Heidelberg, Texas. And if you've been to Heidelberg, actually Heidelberg was modeled after Marburg. And it's just an amazing little town. It's the oldest Protestant university on German soil. I think it was started in 1197 or something.
Wow.
It's just, yeah, it's
Wow.
going way back there. So it's very historic. World War II, we didn't bomb Marburg because of the historic significance. It's a very small, little amazing little town. But one thing I did learn is when Martin Luther and Zwingli had their big Gespräch, as it is in German, or discussion, the big discussion, Gespräch is German for discussion. They had this debate in Marburg, in the castle overlooking the city. And that's pretty, it's pretty interesting that's where that happened.
And you studied so much German, you got like a degree in it, right?
I did. I got a degree in German. I came back from Germany and I wanted a business degree. They're like, "You're gonna have to go an extra year." And I said, "Can I get a minor?" They're okay, you can have a business minor. So my parents were like, "You have 4 years." So that was it. So German degree, business minor, and I modeled my own international business, if you will, before they had it. So.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so that's the Sinners and Saints segment. But we want to talk about some of the sinners. But first we're going to take a call from Bubba here in San Antonio, I guess. Well, as soon as the Mark passes the call to me, is he going to ask a question? Okay, Bubba, you're live on the air. What's your question?
Well, I've got a couple of questions, and then I'll hang up and listen. They say it's anonymous, but when you call in with caller ID or even an email, they can track your number. I'm sure they probably keep it secret, but is it really anonymous? And I know they're on a tight budget, but in certain instances, if they raise the dollar amount considerably, do they think they would have a better chance of solving the crime? I mean, for the right amount of money, I'd probably turn my wife in.
Thanks, Bubba.
I'd probably turn you in. I'd probably have you both in police custody by the end of the day.
Okay.
So,
Well, I hope not.
I mean, not to make light of it, but now if there's a case out there that's not on Crime Stoppers, but a person knows something that could solve a certain crime, could they call Crime Stoppers and then maybe they could put it on their system or whatever, and then they could get some kind of a reward for it? So that's all I had. I'm going to hang up and listen on the radio.
Great questions. Thanks so much. So I guess we'll address those three things real quick before we talk about the sinners. Is it really anonymous? Talk about caller ID.
Okay. Yeah, we do block all of those types of informations. There's nothing that comes through that would identify yourself, nor do we want to identify who it is that is calling. So those do remain anonymous, and because that is the hallmark of our program. So,
and the amount of money, can you talk about how you choose what to offer as a reward, and
sure.
How does it go beyond $5,000?
Oh, sure. That's a great question. We can pay up to $5,000. That's by our statutes through the state. So we can pay up to $5,000, and $5,000 is where capital murders are at. So it can range anywhere from $300 for a fugitive, someone that hasn't committed a crime, but it's actually, not checked in, or is a fugitive of the law. That case has already been solved, but he's a fugitive. So we'll pay $300 on the low end for that, up to, actually solving a case. And actually, the other question he did bring up, I guess I'll just mention that now, is we will pay tips for any crime that leads to an arrest or an indictment. So if you do know of somebody, or a crime that's happened, or a crime that we don't know about, or the police doesn't know about, feel free to give that information. And if it does lead to an arrest or indictment, we will assign a dollar amount and pay that out.
Okay.
For sure.
I was amazed to see as well, like how much money has been approved in terms of rewards for people that have made tips. And thank Bubba for the questions, because those are relevant. They're very good questions, and I think it'd be great if we could elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, we've actually paid out over $1 million to $2 million over the past 20 something years, 30 years now that Crime Stoppers have been operating in San Antonio. We've recovered over 120 weapons. We've gotten weapons out of schools. We've recovered 2.5 million of property. We've seized drugs of over $2 million. So all in all, it's probably close to $5 million of monies and things that we've solved. So
Terrific.
The other question I guess I could answer real quickly is just that we do also have joint public rewards with individuals or family members that have been murdered, that kind of thing, where we'll actually do a joint reward. So if there was a capital murder of Joe Smith and we're offering our $5,000 to help solve that crime, if the family or a friend of Joe Smith comes forward and says, we have our own 5,000. That's where we started out. So if they have at least their own 5,000, we can sign an agreement with them. And then, we will do a public information announcement. We will announce that and release that press release with that joint reward, where that would be $10,000 in cash.
Tell us about one of the stories, one of the crimes that you're trying to solve now. We
are actually, speaking of a cash reward, or he was talking about turning in his wife, I think he said, we do have a $100,000 reward for information that would lead to the solving of Oscar Allen Thompson III murder. He was murdered in November of 2018. And I think Oscar was in his late 20s. He was just coming home from a night out in the town, and he was actually shot in his car. So we do have a joint reward with that case, and it's $100,000 in cash. No question asked.
So if you have any information about this case right now, you can call Crime Stoppers, 210-224 stop. Or you can go to their website and fill out an online form.
Yep. Or you can also download the P3 app.
Okay.
Submit tips.
Yeah, just go to your app store on your mobile phone.
P3.
It's called P3 Tips, I think.
P3 Tips.
What about the other case, the missing girl?
Yeah, the other case we're actually looking for too is Lena Keel, the young Afghanistani girl that was taken from her apartment in December of 2021. The family was there with her, and they went back to their apartment for 5 minutes or something along those lines, and they came back and she was gone. So we actually have a reward for Linda Keel, a cash reward of $50,000.
Okay, cool. So for the Saints, these are some success stories, and you talked about the success stories at the school. Can you think of any other success stories where you helped solve a crime by getting tips?
There was one, I think it was in the early 2000s. There was a bar off of the St. Mary Street. There was a murder. I can't remember the name of the bar. It was a famous bar. It's actually shut down, but there was a gentleman that came in and he shot the bartender, shot a couple patrons, killed 3 or 4 people. And I actually remember going on air and they did a press release on that. I forget the name. Oh, it's killing me right now. But anyway, we did that one and we did get a tip and we did solve that triple murder. through
Awesome.
Crime Stoppers. I remember going on air and doing that. It was early 2000s.
Yeah, so this is really important
Mhm.
work, and
Mhm.
we need everybody to help out by participating in being good witnesses. Maybe we can talk about that in the next segment, but also donating to SA Crime Stoppers on the website, or by bowling with us. Daniel, are you going to bowl?
Oh, I'm going to bowl, not well, but I will be there and I will bowl. Yeah. So our law firm is Bina Lane. So we'll be there. I'm getting people from the firm to join us, and yeah, we're really excited about it.
Cool. Well, thank you for listening to Talk Law Radio. We have one more segment, the legacy segment. So we'll talk about your legacy, Bodo, how you want people to remember you, or the family values that you're going to try and pass down, or the family values that you learned. This is Talk Law Radio. We're talking about Crime Stoppers with Bodo Knochenhauer and Daniel Palmer. We're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Losing a loved one is hard. I'm Todd Marquardt, and I help families like yours navigate probate with clarity and compassion. Don't go through it alone. Call 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or visit marquardtlawfirm.com to get answers and peace of mind. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. This is the fourth segment, our legacy segment. So we're going to talk about legacy.
And now it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
So Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm focus on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. It's all about legacy. So we like to talk to our guests about legacy. So Bodo, when you hear the word legacy and you reflect on your life, does it remind you of a family heirloom, or does it remind you of some family values, or does it make you think about the impact that you want to make on your community?
That's a great question. I think through my work with Crime Stoppers, the legacy that I may have left behind is just that we do have a safer city. We do have programs set up to keep kids safe in school, keep drugs, weapons out of school, try to stop bullying. You may not know Crime Stoppers, but you may be filling up gas one night, and instead of running into a very bad individual, that individual was taken to jail the night before, and you went home to your family safe and sound that night. So I don't need any recognition for that. It's just hard work. Like my parents, instilled that in me, being, as far as hard work, working hard for what you want in life. And that's really something I try to live my life through, helping my clients and in this my volunteer work and keeping the city safe and leaving that kind of legacy behind is I think pretty important for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I can attest, Bodo's not a president who just sits in an air-conditioned office all day, with Crime Stoppers. He's out in the field. He's in the schools. He's at the events. He is talking with media. So he's very, very involved. So yeah, it's definitely a legacy to leave.
Can one of you talk about how the Crime Stoppers interacts with so many different agencies and industries, and you kind of have to bring several things together to make it all work?
Yeah, and I think the liaisons that we work with, especially with SAPD, they're incredibly helpful. They operate with other agencies, and I think that's kind of how it's so successful, is that everybody is just working together. And the board members, Bodo may have mentioned it. We're all volunteers. So everyone that's on the board, we want to be there. There's something that we're very passionate about in regards to Crime Stoppers. So us going out and cultivating these relationships is a huge part of it.
How do you get on the TV? Do you have to buy airtime? Do you have to pay the TV station in
No,
order?
we don't pay for that. No, we have our press releases through SAPD, and we're fortunate enough that local media does pick those up on a daily basis, along with our joint rewards, our public rewards, and that kind of thing. And as far as strategic relationships with our Safe School program, we have one with SAISD, and Lieutenant Christina Houston. She's been just phenomenal for us in really implementing the Safe School program, but also helping out all the other districts throughout San Antonio. And she's done an amazing job for us.
Yeah, we had just done I can't remember the name of it. I apologize. There was it was at one of the school system, or one of the schools, excuse me. There was a fair or something like that. I think it was through Safe Schools.
Yeah, we did that.
And I believe at that they had talked about one of the things that Crime Stoppers has done, which is introduce law enforcement drones. And so there's a set of 3. What's cool about them is they have night vision, they have infrared technology, video, two-way communication. So those can be utilized by Bexar County Sheriff's Office, by San Antonio Police Department, or other law enforcement agencies, to again help to solve crimes in a way that we hadn't been able to do, in years past.
Yeah, that's great that you're using the technology. You're keeping relevant with updates with technology. And I wondered about social media. You have messages through the radio and TV. Do you do any of your messaging through social media?
We try to limit it mainly through our P3 app so that we can keep those tips, coordinated and get those directly to where we need them to go. So we will sometimes ask for or publicize rewards, that kind of thing on social media, but we really want to have those tips coming in so that we can get them out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But with TikTok and X and Facebook, and I don't know what the kids use these days.
Yeah.
But if that's what they're looking at, and they might have information about some crime or investigation that you're trying to solve, maybe that would be a good way to stay in touch with people that are addicted to social media.
That's true.
And there's also, there have been, I don't know what you would call it, but there's been, I guess, print advertisement in the form of, I know, billboards, I think on the sides of buses, correct? So try to get it out there to as many people as possible.
But it would be helpful if you had somebody to donate that billboard or that bus space, because
Correct.
personal injury lawyers, they like those things. They pay high dollar for that.
True.
And so for somebody to give that up, they would have to really be in love with Crime Stoppers.
That's true.
Okay, well, those are all good, important points. Daniel, since you work for Marquardt Law Firm and you help me run the office, you've been doing estate planning with me for many years now. I wanted to just give you an opportunity to talk about something that you want people to know about. Why is estate planning important? What kind of lesson would you like to give now, just in a couple minutes?
Sure. It's a lot of times estate planning attorneys sound like broken records, because what we say over and over again is just get something done. You need to have something.
Do it before you die.
Exactly. Do it before you die. And, unfortunately, we're in the industry where we often see the negative effects, of not creating some sort of estate plan. And what I always tell folks, whether I'm, giving a seminar or speaking to, potential client, is if you don't create this, then guess who gets to decide where everything that you've worked so hard for in your entire life goes? the state of Texas. It's statutory. So you have no say over your own belongings unless you get it done. And so I always tell folks, at bare minimum, have a consultation so that, you're educated, whether that's with our firm or someone else. But it's something that people often put off. And so I think that the number one first step that's more important than anything is just becoming educated on the topic, so that you can make those decisions, whatever they need be, and not die without any type of plan.
Right.
And then lose all of that control.
Yeah, and leave your family and friends in frustration and grief.
And they'll have no sort of game plan as to how to go about getting those assets. So
Bodo, another question that legacy helps remind me of is, what if somebody named Crime Stoppers San Antonio as a beneficiary in their will, trust, or estate plan? Wouldn't that be great?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
So it is possible because you
Mhm.
are a public charity,
Mhm.
tax exempt, I would
Correct.
imagine,
Correct.
501c3.
Yep.
You have to submit a report to the IRS every year.
Every year.
And so if somebody wants to make a taxable or a tax exempt donation to you, well, it's at the end of the year. They could even make a donation directly from their IRA, probably as a QCD, without having to realize the income on that. And they could name the organization as a beneficiary.
yeah, and it's funny because I often talk to clients, and they'll talk about a charity, a charitable organization that they're very passionate about, that have had some sort of significant impact on their life or their family's life, but they say, oh, I got 2 kids, I want it to go 50-50 to the kids. And so sometimes I'll ask them, what if you just did 1% of everything that you own to an organization that made a huge impact on you. And for these nonprofits, like, that can go an incredibly long way.
Right.
So I think that's something that's important to think about.
Well, and I would rather give my money to a charitable organization than give it to the government. I think you're probably a better
Correct.
steward of the
Mhm.
resources than bureaucrats in Washington. So I'm a big believer in charitable giving too. Since you're wearing the Texas Longhorn get up there, I was just thinking, if somebody asked me what was the legacy of Daniel Palmer, I would say, well, he loved the Texas Longhorns.
I don't know if I made it obvious that I'm going to the game after this, but I will be there. Yeah, no, it's a school that is very near and dear to my heart. I get anxious every time I have a consultation in my office and I see that they've gone to Texas A&M because it is just plastered with burnt orange and pictures of Bevo. And the thing that's nice is I got, it's such a fun rivalry that, I tend to connect with my Aggie clients almost more than anybody else. They obviously understand the passion part of it and tradition.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and we have some Aggie fans at the office too. I went to New Mexico State and Las Cruces. We're the Aggies there too. It's a land grant institution, just like Texas A&M. And so I sort of fill that void now that Cassidy was gone. But Cheryl's a big Aggie fan, and now a Texas Tech fan because one of her daughters is going to be going to Texas Tech next year.
Yep.
So we like to have fun at the office. Believe it or not, we're not stuffy lawyers there. But you've been listening to Talk Law Radio. We've been talking about Crime Stoppers with Daniel Palmer and Bodo Knochenhauer. And we want you to know about the event that's coming up. Daniel, when is it?
Yeah, so it's coming up October 8th at Bolero off of 281 and Bitters. This is going to be an event from 6 to 8, our biggest fundraiser of the year. If you'd like to come, it's $400. You get a lane with 6 individuals. I will definitely be there. Bodo will be there. And if you want to just buy an individual ticket, $75. All you can eat pizza and sodas. There's going to be a lot of folks there. Should be a really, really good time.
Great. So October 8th, 6 to 8, go to SA Crime Stoppers. Is that the website?
SACrimestoppers.com.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you for listening. If you want to post a comment on Facebook, please do so. We're interested in what you think about the show. And you can also email me at host@talklawradio.com, host@talklawradio.com. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trusts, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.